I just wanted to do a quick lesson in philosophy, but especially as it pertains to deductive and inductive reasoning. So, deductive reasoning is pretty much when you have a generalization or a theory or a principle that you narrow down to a conclusion based off specific examples, but it's a form of reasoning where the conclusion necessarily follows from the principles being stated, versus an inductive reasoning, which is pretty much the opposite, where you have observations, and from those observations you make a generalization that might not always be true or be the case. And so deductive reasoning tends to be a little bit stronger than inductive reasoning. Both have their merits based off what is. But an example of deductive reasoning would be something like Black Lives Matter, right? So in order to come to this conclusion, we start with the general principles, or a general principle with a specific scenario to make the conclusion or something along those lines. So it would be something where the first premise is all lives matter. Second premise is the amateur is a Black life. Conclusion, the amateur's life matters. And so doing that with all the people who identify as Black, you would say all lives matter is the first premise. Second premise is everyone who identifies as Black is a life. And then conclusion, Black lives matter. As opposed to an inductive reasoning, which would be saying, well, the amateur is Black, her life matters. President Obama's Black, his life matters. And I don't know, Diddy is Black and his life matters. And then conclusion, Black lives matter. And from that, you wouldn't necessarily be right all the time, if that makes sense. That's not to say that Black lives don't matter. You might say some Black lives matter, some don't. Some Black lives don't matter. I'm on the side that all lives matter as the general principle to hold. But yeah, not to be offensive or dig myself into a further hole. Lesson concluded.